My name is Elaine, and I am currently an advisor at Green River College. I advise for all the health science programs, which is kind of funny. We have an occupational therapy assistant and physical therapy assistant program, and my PTA from 33 years ago is the director of the PTA program now. So we've kind of come full circle, and we've been friends this whole time. I was in a car accident in high school, 1982. Yeah, I'm 50. Did I say that out loud? And I was in a car accident. I was with a girlfriend, and we went driving in Puyallup, and we met a couple of guys, and she knew the passenger but not the driver. And so they invited us to a party, and it was just 5 minutes down the road. So I got in the guy's car, and the guy she knew got in her car, and we were just going to go 5 minutes down the road, and they had been drinking and we didn't know it, and so the guy driving the car I was in drove over 100 miles an hour and flipped the car, and I was thrown through the windshield and landed in blackberry bushes, which sounds horrible, but it actually cushioned the fall to, so I might not have been alive if that hadn't happened. So yeah, I was right by Good Sam Hospital in Puyallup and spent 5.5 months there in the rehab program. And I guess I was the first person to go through the whole place, from emergency room, to surgery all the way through rehab. So the frequent flyer club. They're a great hospital. They've always been there for me after, and some subsequent things that come along with aging, with spinal cord injury, and some pressure sore problems I've had. They've been wonderful. They don't just kick you out the door and say, have a good life. They've been great to me ever since, as I'm sure UW is too. I'm divorced. I was married for 8 years. My ex-husband also has a disability. He's blind, and all men are blind, but he's really blind. I'm sorry, just kidding. We were married for 8 years, and we have a son who's now 16 and getting ready to drive. He was talking to my friend Marty's daughter. Marty's also in a wheelchair, and I heard him say, "So what's it like to have a wheelchair dad?" So evidently I'm a wheelchair mom. So yeah, he's a great kid, and of course all moms are in wheelchairs because that's all he knows. And yeah, we were in a world of two for a long time. My dad is still alive. He's 86 and lives with us, and he's wonderful. It was hard for him. 1982. His generation, people were cared for their whole life if they had a spinal cord injury. He actually went to high school with a guy who stayed in bed his whole life, and his mom took care of him. And then his mom died. He died shortly after, and it was just a different time, different generation. And so I honestly think my parents thought they'd have to take care of me the rest of my life, and they didn't realize that I was really independent. And it happened when I was 17, and I think if it had to happen in someone's life, that was a good time, because I had my childhood, and I don't know, I just felt like if it had to happen anytime, because your life changes so much after you graduate high school anyway, that I just started out, adulthood in a wheelchair. So yeah, it was a good time. Have a lot of friends now, a lot of women in wheelchairs friends. It's called IWOW. It's a group in the Tacoma Olympia area, Independent Women on Wheels, and we get together and we either do a Bible study together or just get together for just social reasons for all of our birthdays and holidays. We always try to do an event. And then I belong to a bigger group of Northwest Women Wheelers, I believe it's called, and it's a forum, and we have 2 events a year. So that camaraderie is really important, to talk, have other people to laugh with and joke about things. We talk about having a poker game with catheters. It's fun, you need other people to talk to. And so I haven't known a lot of women in wheelchairs that have had babies. I have since I've had my son, but it's kind of nice to find out what they went through, and logistically just figuring out everything. So I remember I was at my parents' house, and I was pulling my wheelchair in my car, and I pulled it in and I lost grip of it, and it wheeled across the driveway, and I'm like, ah! So I waited around a half an hour for someone to come home, and I realized I'm in the car. I can drive to where my wheelchair is. Took me 30 minutes to figure that out. Yeah, so it's a learning curve. Work has always been a really important thing to me. I started out as a secretary, wasn't very happy as a secretary because me sitting in a corner typing and not talking to anyone is a very scary thing. So um, I have horrible math and test anxiety, always have, pretty much, since geometry on, or if they start replacing, numbers with letters, it freaks me out. And but a few years as a secretary, I thought, okay, now I understand why you go to school. And so went back to school, and it took me 17 years to get my associate's degree. I was doing one class at a time, and so finally faced it and took a class called Overcoming Math Anxiety, and changed my whole life. I finished my master's degree with a 4.0 because of that class. It just taught you, left brain, right brain thinking, and I just didn't realize, hey, I have a brain. I'm smart. And I had a tutor in the hospital after my accident, and she told me those things. You're still Elaine. You're just the sit-down version. So I finished my associate when I was pregnant, went on to an accelerated bachelor's degree program, finished my master's degree when my son was 6. So I'm divorced now, and so I just wanted to, get the best job I could, and it took education. And I really see education as freedom, and it's something I can do, and it just really just turned out to be showing up and turning your work in on time and asking for help if you needed it. Aging and work, it's been hard. Just the commuting and driving, and a 35-minute drive to Auburn can take an hour and a half to 2 hours on Thursdays and Fridays, both ways, and that can be tough. And just sitting that much, I have to have one day on the weekend out of my wheelchair, just completely out of my wheelchair all day, get up to eat and use the bathroom, and that's pretty much it. And I nap, read books, watch TV, or and just have a quiet day. So, and my son does too, and he's gotten used to it. I have a lot more neck and shoulder pain than I used to, probably from that 19 years of driving a car and pulling in my chair. So that's affected me. Pushing my chair has affected me. Probably 5 or 6 years ago, I went to a power assist wheel, which is a nice bridge in between a power chair and a manual chair. I would never want a power chair. It's funny, people think that's kind of the Cadillac version of a wheelchair, that's something you aspire to. And it's like, no, that's really if you can't use your arms. I did try it one time at Disneyland, before they had power assist wheels, and it was scary. You have to think, when you back up, you have to think which way you want your front end to go, which is kind of, a little scary. So it's like too much thinking for me. So, and so these power assist wheels are nice. It's a 74-pound chair now, but with the way it propels, it makes up for that. So I don't have to think about hills and ramps and, any of that anymore. Just fatigue. Yeah, it really helps with my fatigue level a lot. So I turned 50 in May, and so I am noticing a lot. I'm to the point I need a little siesta in the afternoon, even at work. It's hard sometimes, but I'll just go out at lunchtime, get out of my chair, put my feet up, and just chill for an hour, and it's nice. In 1997, I won the Miss Wheelchair America pageant. I've always been a public speaker and an advocate, and just out in my community. This is when I won the pageant. This was in 1997. My friends kind of talked me into do it. I'm not the beauty pageant type of person. That's the wave, by the way, the beauty pageant type of person. But it's not a beauty pageant. It's based on your public speaking and work in the community and advocacy. So I was the first Washington State representative, and then ended up winning, and had a great time. Got to visit President and Mrs. Clinton in the White House, and met Christopher Reeve, which was an absolute thrill. I just have a picture. I'm just looking at him like I'm in love, and I was. Crystal blue eyes, I can't quite explain. And he did so much for stem cell research and finding a cure for spinal cord injury. And so, yeah, that was a real thrill. Got to travel for the United States for a year, and about 4 times a month on a plane, and it was a lot. And but I won a full ride scholarship for my bachelor's degree that way too. So it was wonderful. And I'm so glad I did. I won a women's downhill skiing competition, which is hilarious because I'm the least athletic person on the planet. Marathon shopping is my sport, you know, so I do not an athletic person, but yeah, they gave me a drink of peppermint schnapps before I went down the mountain, 65 miles an hour. My parents are like, don't tell us things like that. I'm like, I'm already in a wheelchair. What's going to happen? You know, so yeah, so it was a great year. I just had a really fun time. Actually found my birth family when I was in Alaska. Did a little research when I was there. I was adopted as a baby, and so found my birth family, and just amazing things like that happened all year long. So yeah, it was great. It was great. Yeah, it was a really fun year. So tiring, but really fun. And I'm still involved in the Miss Wheelchair America pageant. I go to nationals to judge, and we have a Miss Wheelchair Washington pageant too. So great way to represent your state. I'm on the Governor's Committee on Disability Issues and Employment right now, and I said no to that for a long time. I waited till my son was older. It's so funny because I've always thought of my weight as more of a disability than being in a wheelchair. You know, the handicaps, which is the mental barrier of stopping you from doing things. And it's the one thing I can control, which is kind of funny because I know, I think it's my way of kind of keeping people away of, well, they don't like me because of my weight, you know, and I can blame it on that. And it's just sort of my way of keeping people away. And plus I struggle, you know, I'm an Eskimo in a wheelchair. It's like, thank you, God, you know, that was good. Yeah, yay, you know, I already struggle. So yeah, add the wheelchair factor, you know, so, and I'm a carb addict, you know, too. So about 8 years ago, I found out I have type 2 diabetes, and that's been a struggle because I pretty much have given up white carbs. I was in denial for a long time, and then I started having health problems. I got a pressure sore on my foot, and it wouldn't heal, and then I saw a lady on the train when I commuted to Seattle who was a double amputee and in a wheelchair because she was diabetic, and I'm like, okay, God, I get the hint now. And so I pretty much gave up white carbs, and or as much as I can. Got to have some or you go crazy, but for the most part I switched to brown rice and yeah, just the sweets and everything, so bread and so it's been a struggle. I've at risk, it's for so many reasons, being sedentary, being native. I'm, you know, like I said, I'm Eskimo, and just lots of different reasons, my age, and I thought it was weight related, but I know people who are 85 pounds and, you know, that are diabetic too, and so first thing you want to do is beat yourself up about that, but you can't. You can't. It's hard to control your weight when you're sitting all the time. So that's another reason I would never go in a power chair, because just to have the exercise to take my dog for a walk, and this helps, but I still have to make it propel. So I at least get out and get some fresh air and get some exercise. Now that I call the doctor, they say the first thing to say is, I'm diabetic. And then it's taken a lot more seriously as far as if I have a problem. It seems to be, you know, like a pressure sore, you know, takes twice as long to heal. I've had problems with pressure sores on my feet, nothing on my bottom, thank goodness, knock on wood, but I know a lot of people have had pressure sores, have had to have flap surgeries, and you don't ever want to go there. You just don't want to go there. And if I could look back on one thing that I would change is that I wouldn't diet, because I think that's one of the main reasons I have a weight problem. I go to an internist, you know, internal medicine specialist, and he seems to know a little bit more about spinal cord injury. Haven't really visited much with a physiatrist since my accident. It's just been a logistical thing. That would be ideal, but I just don't live a place where that's easy to do. I've visited with a urologist before, because bladder infections seem to just, I self-cath, and so just as you can be as clean and, you know, as sterile as you can be, and then you still end up getting bladder infections. So, and I think being regular about going every 4 hours too really helps, because if you just wait 8 hours and, you know, your just bladder isn't meant to hold, you know, hold that long, and then you do end up with infections. So, and drinking, just drinking all the time. I have a drink holder in my chair, so I always have a drink bottle there where I drink all day long. I went to see an OBGYN when I first thought about having a child, and he said, well, I first realized you had a spinal cord injury, you want to have a baby. My first thought was, what, who would be that stupid? And I thought, it was one of those, you've been insulted, but you don't think about it till after you leave because you feel like you're in a vulnerable position with a doctor anyway. And I'm like, did he say that, or did I just imagine that? And they said there was a 20% chance of me dying for 2 different reasons, for blood clots and, you know, your blood pressure. It's autonomic dysreflexia and yeah, blood pressure, you know, problems in a stroke or a heart attack, and so, but I had no problems. It was great. But they made me give myself heparin shots at the end, so I didn't have any blood clots, and you know, yeah, no labor pains. they gave me an epidural anyway, though, because to keep my body from fighting the pain, so it would relax. And they're like, did it take? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. What, you're paralyzed? Yeah. Having my son was one of the easiest things I did. I shook for about 2 hours after I had him, though. They said it was the heat loss, maybe, for my body, just kind of trauma. It was the greatest thing I ever did, but it was finding the right fit of doctors and OBGYNs and people I felt like were treating me like I was, you know, a serious patient, you know, and not, you know, I don't know, just not a novelty, I guess. I think about healthcare has changed. You know, I just had to buy vitamins for women over 50. And I'm like, wow, could that be any more specific? What about an Eskimo in a wheelchair? What, you know, WD-40 and fish oil? I mean, how more specific could they get with vitamins, you know? So I have to think about long term, and I have to work for another 17 years to get my pension till I'm 67. And have to just, you know, again, be strict about, you know, how much I do outside of work. Could I maybe telecommute, you know, 1 or 2 days a week where I can do it, you know, from home, or, you know, get maybe a little more creative. I thought about writing a book and would love to do that and go out on a book tour. That would be fun. So I don't know, I'm thinking in different ways. We have 5 to 7 careers in a lifetime. So my son has 2 more years in high school. So yeah, I don't know what this next chapter will bring, but yeah, I really try to make healthier choices as far as, you know, food and exercise and getting enough sleep and drinking enough water, because I just don't bounce back like I used to. I've been in the hospital twice with kidney infections, so it's, you know, it's getting harder, and yeah, it's nothing to play around with. And when you're 20, you know, you think, you know, I'm fine. I can stay out all night and go to work the next day. And I think that's just anyone, though, right? That's just an age thing. Now that I'm getting older, I have sought out different types of healthcare that I didn't before. So I'm really considering acupuncture for my neck and shoulders. I haven't gone to any physical or occupational therapist other than going to Good Sam Rehab when I had my pressure sore on my foot. So we could do some hydrotherapy and some treatment on that. So I really would, massage therapy is something too that I wish I could get every week because of my neck and shoulder pain. I probably take way too much Excedrin than I should because of that pain, and plus I'm on the computer all day, and I have carpal tunnel from overuse of my wrists, so I drop things a lot. My dog is my service dog. Just at home, he's kind of shy out in public. They're supposed to leave food and people alone, and he couldn't do that. Neither can I, but he definitely can't. He can pick up things, and off the floor and hand it to me, and he can deliver things. I'll say, take that to Grandpa, and he'll take something over to my dad, and so those kinds of things really help. So he's helped me a lot too. Plus the companionship. They say, pets are an antidepressant, and it's absolutely true. I've struggled with depression. They said my body could have been depressed ever since my accident, but it didn't manifest till later, after my divorce. And then I thought, am I going to be a bad parent if I go to counseling and maybe take pharmaceuticals? And I thought, well, I'd be a worse one if I didn't. And so I've taken antidepressants for about the last 8 years, and they've really, really helped me. And I've had a lot of counseling too. Advice I would give to someone who's younger than me, and just don't take your health for granted, and really watch your skin. All the stuff you go through rehab, you think, I have to do all this stuff for the rest of my life. It just becomes part of who you are. I'm a real advocate for doing things at night because I am not a morning person, never have been. So I do all my personal care, bowel program, any kind of, I shower at night. I do everything at night. I pack lunches. I have things set out by the door. I set all my clothes out, including jewelry, everything, scarf tied, everything. So I don't have to think in the morning, and that just helps me. And I have other friends in chairs who get up at 4, and I can't do that. It's just, they're morning people and they just do everything in the morning. I can't do that. So trying to be organized about it really seems to help me a lot, and then I don't get as overwhelmed. And you have accidents and things happen, and I talk to my boss, and say, sorry, just sometimes these things happen. I have to go home and take a shower or whatever it is, and had really understanding bosses. And they already see my disability when I'm interviewing, so I don't usually disclose that I'm diabetic till after I'm hired, because I don't think, oh God, another thing, really. And so I tell them after that, because if I'm staring at a bowl of waxed fruit for an hour, they, might realize, something's wrong, and that maybe I have low blood sugar and that they need to help me. And so I have things at my desk and things in the fridge. And so if you see me, it just comes over me just like that. And it's usually tied to my bladder, which is funny. Yeah, so if I'm not doing that, if I haven't eaten, I'm too busy, get going on stuff, don't take my breaks, don't take my lunch. I break out in a sweat in the back of my neck, I get shaky, and really easy things become difficult, and I get overwhelmed. And so I try to tell somebody, even that can be hard sometimes. Yeah. I say, I'm having low blood sugar right now, can you help me get some juice? Or I was at a doctor's office one time and I was trying to do the debit machine, and I'm like, I couldn't do it. And they asked me, are you okay? And I said, I'm just having low blood sugar right now. And so, yeah, so they helped me. So it's so hard for me to ask for help. Oh my gosh, it's hard, because I've been so independent. And it was almost to the point of militant. I can do this myself, and no, I'm not going to ask for help. Plus, I've had people not say no for helping me, like at the grocery store. If I asked them if they would reach something for me, they just give me a dirty look and keep. Employees too. Employees have said no. So it makes me not want to ask anyone for help, because it's hard enough to ask for help as it is. And then to have somebody say no, yeah, or people not help me put gas in my car, or I can do it now, but it's just a lot for me to do. And when I was driving a car, it was really hard. Now in a van, it's not as hard, but it's still pouring down rain, and you can't reach the debit machine sometimes. And so, so asking for help is hard for me. So that's another thing. You just have to get over that and just admit you need help. I was at a diabetes education support group thing one time where they're teaching you all of everything you need to know. And I was eating dinner with a husband and wife, and he said, can I take your tray? And I said, no, I've got it. And his wife said, let him help you. And I'm like, okay, sorry. I'm just used to doing it by myself. Thank you. I just do that, and I don't realize I'm doing it. Just don't be afraid. I think the thing, people, they don't want someone to help them. I think what they really, it's about is having your choice taken away. So as long as someone asks you for help, do you need help? Is there some, not assuming you need help. I've literally had people start pushing me at the mall, strangers, and I'm like, hey, you know, don't, plus my purse is back here, and it's like, if, be like somebody, yeah, it's, you know, you lose control over your, you know, and so it's like somebody grabbing your arm and you take off running. That's how it feels. You have no control over yourself. And so people just, oh, I thought it was helping, I'm sorry. And that's what I tell people, just please, just ask me. And they want to tie balloons on my wheelchair. If you want to see me go postal, tie a balloon on my wheelchair. That will do it for me. I talked to my son about, you know, I wasn't drinking or driving. I was the sober passenger who got in the wrong car. And I tell all my friends and their kids too, you know, have an agreement with your children. 3 a.m., you know, call and you know, talk to them, you know, just have an understanding that no punishment, no judgment, I'll pick you up, no questions asked. Any time of the, you know, day or night. I don't know. I probably could have done that with my parents too. It was, you know, midnight in June, you know, just a cute guy in a Trans Am, you know, 5 minutes to a party, you know, who didn't have my seatbelt on, you know, because it was in 1982 and they didn't have the DUI laws. They pour the bottle out and tell you to go home, you know, so it's just, it's a different world now. Distracted driving actually scares me more, texting and driving. And I really wish they would come up with some type of a mechanism that fits in a steering wheel that makes a cell phone unusable unless the car's turned off. You know, that you can't text, it scrambles your texting or something. You know, there's got to be technology that can do that, because that actually scares me more, because the phone is like an appendage to kids now, and it really scares me that they're doing that. And so I hope that changes. So it's a huge statistic now. You put a tiara on anyone's head and, you know, watch them blossom, you know. So I should have I should wear it. I should have worn it right now. What was I thinking? Yeah. I should wear it to work one day so they know who they're dealing with. Yeah, the sash. They think that anyway. So, yeah, yeah, really. I'm a princess.